this video, I'm going to be talking about adjustment, the adjustment tool, which is on your Magic Wand tab up on the very top left near the gallery. It's the wrench, the magic wand, the ribbon, and the arrow. So you're just going to tap on the magic wand and make sure that you have something already on your canvas that you want to work on. So in this case, I have a picture of my dog Winston, and I'm just going to play around with this layer. This is a photo layer, and I'm just going to play around with it. And to check that you're on the right layer, you can always go back to your layers tab and see in the thumbnail that you're on the right layer. So I'm on the photo layer. So I click my magic wand, and this is where you can edit a lot of things about your artwork on a specific layer. You can change the hue, saturation, and brightness. This is the first option. There's a little menu that pops down, layer and pencil. We'll go into the pencil option later on, but the layer option is what you want now, so you want to change everything on this layer. And if you see on the bottom, you have your hue, saturation, and brightness bars. So if you drag these, it's a rainbow of colors, and you can choose any color that you want. So let's say I kind of like it where he's a little bit purple. And I want to reduce the saturation a little bit. Maybe increase the brightness. And we don't have to do anything to save our artwork at this point. The only thing we have to do is go back to where we want to go. So if I want to go back to my layers tab, I just hit the layers menu. But in this case, I want to keep working with the adjustments layer. So I'm just going to hit the magic wand again. And you can see there's a color balance menu on here, and this is where you can go more into detail about which colors you want to be more apparent in the image. This little bar here shows you your color, or the sun here shows you how you can edit your shadows, your midtones, or your highlights. We're going to go back up to the magic wand. Curves is a great photo editing software. They use this in Photoshop a lot. I don't play around with this that much in Procreate, but you can definitely work with this. And the gradient map has different loaded gradient maps for you. These are almost like filters, and you can play around with these or make your own. And to make your own, you just have to press this little plus bar in the corner, and it'll show you a gradient map, and you're going to choose one color on the left. So in this case, let's do maybe a dark red, and one color on the right. And you usually want the color on the left to be much darker than the color on the right. You can also add another color just by tapping anywhere on this bar, and then you can choose the color there. And we'll tap out of that. And you can slide to adjust the opacity of this layer. So anytime you see this blue bar up on the top here, this means that I'm sliding to adjust. So I'm just sliding left to right with my finger to adjust the opacity of whatever I'm working on. So we're going to tap back into the adjustments layer. Gaussian blur is fantastic for backgrounds, and all you have to do is slide to adjust. So it's going to blur the entire image for me. And you can see it really is a powerful tool. And I use this a lot if I'm painting a background and I want the subject matter in the foreground to be more in focus. Go back to my magic wand. Motion blur is a little strange, but it's something you can use if you want to emulate action in your piece. And you can just play around with all of these and figure out what you like the best. Perspective blur gives you a blur based on the perspective that you're looking at it. So in this case, it's a radial perspective. And I can blur everything except for what's inside this circle. I can also change it to directional, which means that since the arrow is pointing down, if I start to blur it, it's only gonna blur everything from here down. So I can move this around and see how that looks. Now we go back to our magic wand. And at this point we have our more artistic tools. So let's see what noise does. So I check noise or touch it with my finger. And the first option that comes up is clouds. So if I slide to adjust, you can see that it's creating a lot of noise for me. I can scale the noise right here. So I can make it very large or very small. Octaves changes the number of dots that you have, and turbulence just changes how varied it is. So I'm going to reduce that. This is under clouds. Under billows, it's kind of the same thing, and ridges is kind of the same thing too. And I don't use these that much. So going back to our magic wand, sharpen will sharpen the image for you. This is helpful if you want a lot of detail. Again, I don't use this one that much. Bloom really magnifies the light areas in your artwork or in your photo. And you can change the information down here. So I can change the size of the bloom. Or I can change burn amount, which means how much it morphs into the other areas of the photo, and the transition, which is how blurry it is. So I'm just gonna reduce that back down. Glitch is pretty interesting. It almost looks like a computer that's having a malfunction. So you could make it all the way at 100% and save this as your artwork to make it look like your computer crashed. And this is under artifact right now in the bottom menu. You can hit wave to make a wave, signal, or diverge. And you can edit all of these tools on the bottom to help you with your image at the end. I'm just gonna undo that. Halftone is also pretty interesting. It's almost like an old-fashioned comic strip. So you can choose full color at the bottom, you can choose screen print or newspaper. And chromatic aberration. I'm not exactly sure what this does, but you can see the effect that it has on the image. You can choose perspective or displace, where you can displace the image and move it around. In this case, it looks like they're in primary colors. And then this is where you get all the really fun tools. So to get this menu, I go under my magic wand and I hit liquefy, which is at the very bottom next to clone. And this is where I can really play around and have fun. So I'm just gonna pick up my pencil again, and I'm gonna look at the very far left where it says push, and I can change all of these options on the bottom. So I can change the size of the paintbrush that I'm using, the pressure, the distortion amount, and the momentum, which is how fast it's moving. And if you just watch, I'm just dragging my pencil across, and it produces some really cool effects that you can create some really great pieces with. And if I don't like how this looks, all I have to do is go to this bar on the very far right where it says reset, and it'll reset the photo for me. twirl right, all I have to do is hold my pencil down in one spot and it'll twirl for me. I can also move the pencil around and it'll start twirling. And again, you can change the size of your brush so you can make it really big and twirl the entire thing and move it around. And I'm just gonna hit reset. Twirl left is the same thing, but in the opposite direction. Pinch brings in the image as if you're pinching it. So you'll see what happens there. It's almost like a black hole shows up. Expand does the opposite of that. Almost like a fisheye lens. Crystals creates a lot of crystallization on your artwork. So if I'm just moving my pen around and I can hold it in one spot to create more crystals, you can see what that's doing. Reset that. Edge, I think this makes blockier shapes and kind of finds the big shapes in the image. I'm not exactly sure what it does, but it has a cool effect. And let's say I like the way his nose looks, but I don't like this bottom half. If I like everything else that I've done in this menu, all I have to do is hit reconstruct, and it can reconstruct only part of the image for me instead of resetting the entire thing. But I'm gonna go back to normal. And adjust is just where you will adjust the strength. So I go back up to my magic wand, and the last tool that we have on the adjustments menu is the cloning option. So here you have a really interesting tool that allows you to clone a spot, any spot on your canvas. So let's say I want to clone just the eye. I'm just going to drag this circle over the eye, and then I can just start painting, in this case with my finger, and it's painting that from that area for me. So now I have two eyes, so I don't have to copy and paste that. And that's your adjustment menu. I hope that helped. There's a lot of fun tools in here, and definitely play around with it and find what you like the most, or just have fun with it.